Hi everyone, welcome back to my solo podcast, Shh, episode 6. My name is Rinima Borah, and before we even begin, thank you so very much for all the love, all the kindness and support. It truly means the world to me. Now, in our last episode, I left you at the majestic railway station in Bangalore with my family and me arriving in this incredible city. I was 17 and a half years old, stepping into a whole new chapter of life with big dreams and a fire to change my family's destiny. So this episode takes you through those first few transformative years, the incredible highs of growth and the deep lows of domestic violence that shaped who I am today. A whole new world, right? The moment we stepped off the train, the Bangalore weather hit us like a pleasant surprise. It was July 2006 and the city felt like a breath of fresh air. My family and I stayed in a small lodge in Majestic and shopped for all my essentials for the PG and college and explored the city for a week. My dad was meticulous, buying me everything I needed, from a mattress to an umbrella, setting me up for my new life. And we moved to Kamnali shortly after. We even did touristy things like visiting Lal Bagh, Mysore Palace, MG Road before my family left. And the day they left was truly one of the hardest days of my life. I cried like a baby, and my dad, my biggest supporter, I remember he stood at the train door weeping until I was out of sight. And it was the first time I was truly alone. But as much as it hurt, I knew that this was the start of something bigger. Shortly after college began, and so did my transformation, I started adapting to Bangalore life, figuring out how to navigate with BMTC buses, bus passes and all sort of fancy things, not fancy actually, and learning to balance college and soon a job. So through a consultancy, I landed my first job at Converges, supporting Microsoft's North American customers. The hours were grueling, 9:30 p.m. to 6:30 a.m. shift, and I attended college from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So my life kind of became a cycle of work, classes, and a few hours of sleep, but I loved every bit of it. Walking into my first MNC job literally felt like stepping into another world. It was a 6-story glass building on Banargada Road, and I remember standing in awe as I looked up at it. And for someone like me who grew up in a small village, living in a bamboo house with mud floors, this felt like a dream. And I was no longer just a girl from the village Sarubhagia. I was someone walking into an air-conditioned office, about to start a new chapter in my life. I had never experienced this level of infrastructure or comfort before. Free cab pickups and drops, free meals in a shiny cafeteria on the 6th floor, and even Sodexo coupons worth 1,000 rupees to buy groceries. It was a luxury I had never imagined. And what amazed me even more was that I was getting paid to be here. My first salary was 11,000 rupees after deductions, and I couldn't believe my luck. While some of my colleagues were cribbing about erratic shifts or the workload, I truly couldn't wrap my head around their complaints. For me, this was the jackpot, It was everything I had ever dreamed of and more at the time. I remember my very first day, 2nd of January 2006. I was nervous and intimidated. I remember what I was wearing, this cheap jeans and a simple striped yellow and white t-shirt. Clothes I had picked up from a very small store in Kamnali, the area I lived in Bangalore. I straightened my hair with a cheap straightener I had paid around 400 bucks from Majestic, trying my best to look presentable. And my batch had a total of 25 people, mostly South Indians, a few North Indians, Bengalis, Nepalis, and one other Assamese girl named Shrestha. Meeting her was like finding a piece of home. She spoke fluent Assamese, and we instantly connected. And that friendship, which started on day one, has lasted 17 years. Even now, she remains one of my closest and best friends. So our very first month in Converges was voice and accent training, where our trainer, Bhavesh, I remember him so well, introduced us to the world of corporate communication. We learned about things like 44 sounds in an English language, syllable stress, pronunciation, articulation, intonation, so on and so forth. And Bhavesh was patient and inspiring, but my struggles were evident. I still remember mispronouncing words like bracelet as bracelet and message as message. Some of my peers laughed at me, but I didn't let it hurt me, honestly. Instead, I told myself, Rinima, you're here to learn, and learn you will. And starting from this point, every day I worked harder to improve. I started watching Friends and The Big Bang Theory at home instead of Indian soaps like Kyunki Saas Bhi Kabhi Bahu Thi. You remember, I used to watch those shows with mom back home. And at the time, I remember downloading episodes from torrents because streaming services like Netflix and stuff didn't exist back then in 2006. And I started listening to English music from Backstreet Boys to Black Eyed Peas, my hum, my hum, my hum. Repeating lyrics to basically improve my pronunciation. Songs like I Want It That Way. Remember those songs? Loved it. I read English magazines and practiced my typing speed to excel at work. So my world was expanding and I was determined to make the most out of every opportunity. At the end of 3 months training, I had transformed. And when Bhavesh, my communication trainer, and our process trainer Krishna named me the best trainee, it was a defining moment for me. I was no longer the girl people underestimated. I was someone who could take on challenge and come out on top. Someone to look out for. Now, moving to the production floor of a BPO is crazy. It's overwhelming at first, let me tell you. Hundreds of agents sit in cubicles, around 500 on one floor, taking calls, while the room buzzed with ringing phones and overlapping conversations. And for our first week, I remember all of the trainees, we shadowed senior agents, listening to their calls to learn the ropes. I was excited to start taking calls myself and prove what I could do because I knew I was going to kill it. And when my turn finally came, I went all in, you guys. From the very first call, I brought energy and enthusiasm. Our average handling time, we call AHT, had to be under 2 minutes, which means, and I worked hard to meet that target while still being warm and engaging. How I loved talking to American customers. Their openness and willingness to teach me new words or correct my pronunciation in a kind way made me fall in love with the process. And I remember within a year, I was recognized as a top performer. Dope Cope, my dogs are like not behaving today, I'm sorry. Yeah, within a year, I was recognized as a top performer. My team manager often used me as an example for others. And when my turn finally came, thank you for calling Microsoft Customer Support. My name is Rinima. How may I help you? I went all in, you guys. From the very first call, like I told you, I brought energy and enthusiasm. Oh, how I loved talking to American customers. Their openness and willingness to teach me new words or correct my pronunciation in a kind way made me fall in love with this process. And within a year, I was recognized as a top performer. My team manager often used me as an example for others, saying, how is it that Rinima starts her day with energy and ends it the same way even after 120 calls? I even led the charge for customer service because I genuinely enjoyed connecting with people. It wasn't just about solving their problems, it was about making them feel heard and valued and being patient and kind and polite and soft-spoken. And by the second year, you won't believe, I had been promoted twice. I moved from L1, level 1 support to level 2 support and eventually became a communication coach. Me, a girl who once struggled with basic pronunciation, was now auditing calls and giving feedback to others on their communication skills from all age groups and all parts of India. Life had truly come full circle, didn't it? And for me, every achievement was a step closer to the life I had dreamed of. I was making my parents proud, proving to myself and everyone who doubted me that I could rise above my circumstances, and the corporate world was teaching me discipline, confidence, and the value of hard work. But it was also helping me discover who I was and what I was capable of. Now, this part, I have to hold my crystal for this one. While my professional life was thriving, my personal life was unraveling. And shortly after arriving in Bangalore in 2006, I reconnected with a man we will call Gandu from this point onward. Let's call him that because trust me, he has earned it in every way, and you will know it by the time I finish this podcast. I was 17 and a half years old, fresh off the train from a small village in Assam. I was naive, wide-eyed, and new to the city, right? So for a girl who had grown up in mud-floored houses where luxury was owning a proper bed, Gandu seemed like everything I thought I wanted. He was the epitome of cool to my inexperienced eyes. Ripped jeans, tattoos, piercings on his tongue and eyebrows, a bike that he revved up like he was in some Bollywood movie, and an effortless way of throwing around words like See ya. He had it all. I mean, for me at that point. So to me, his confidence and this whole city boy demeanor were irresistible. Like, he spoke English fluently. He rode a Pulsar like it was a Ducati or maybe one of the fanciest bikes on the planet, and had this aura of someone who had been around the block. And now for a girl like me who had just learned how to straighten her hair and pronounce message and bracelet correctly, he was a walking dream, or so I thought. But here's the thing. When you are young as 17 and a half or 18, and I want you girls to hear this up, and you come from a small town, you often confuse style for substance. I didn't see the red flags, even when they were right in front of me. And like many other relationships, the first year was like a whirlwind, hunky-dory, hanging out together, exploring the city, and feeling like I was part of his cool world. I was so caught up in the exterior that I didn't realize I was falling into a trap. And I still remember the first time Gandu slapped me. I didn't even know how to react. It was over something as stupid as me hanging out with some old school friends, guys and girls, and he didn't like it. He got jealous and out of nowhere slapped me on the road across my face. And I was shocked. But then came the apologies. Oh, he cried, called himself stupid, begged for forgiveness, and said he would never do this again. And guess what? I believed him. I thought maybe he just loves me too much. I wish I had walked away then. I really do, but I bloody didn't. And over time, the abuse became a regular part of our relationship. It started with that slap, but quickly escalated. And Gandu didn't just raise his hand, he freaking raised hell. By the second year, I was showing up to work in college with bruises on my arms, my face, and marks on my neck, trying to hide them with scarves, long sleeve clothes, concealers. There were times he would hit me so hard that I would fall to the ground, gasping for air. I ended up in the hospital more than, I don't even know the amount of times, and even then I kept making excuses to myself and to others. Why? Because every time he hurt me, he would immediately flip into the perfect boyfriend mode. He would burn his hands with cigarettes to punish himself, cry while hugging my photo and promise to change. He told me I was his world, his doll, and that he couldn't live without me. And he even cut his wrist once. And I believed him. I thought maybe he's broken and maybe I can fix him. But here is the truth. And again, hear me out. You cannot fix someone who doesn't want to change, right? And then came the manipulation around religion and identity. Initially, it wasn't a problem that I was a Hindu and he was a Muslim. But as things got more serious around the third year, his family started interfering, and suddenly I was being told that if I wanted a future with Gandu, I would have to convert to Islam, change my name, eat beef, pray 5 times a day. It was subtle at first, but over time, the pressure became overt. And what's worse, I started bloody complying. I remember I kept Rosa for 6 to 7 years to make him happy while he did not fast. Learned a few Urdu phrases because a Maulana would come home and train me to impress his family. And stopped wearing certain clothes because he didn't approve of them. It was never presented as a choice, for some reason. It was a demand disguised as love. And I didn't see it for what it was until much later. But by the 4th year, the violence and control had reached a breaking point. Gandu didn't just threaten me, he started threatening my family. I told him that I wanted to leave him and I had to go. And every time I said that, he would tell me he would pour acid on my face or burn my family alive while they were sleeping. And I remember this one time he pulled like a dagger on a stranger in traffic in Commercial Street in Bangalore, and I realized this guy is capable of anything. I was scared out of my mind, but something inside me finally snapped, yo. I couldn't live like this anymore, and I confided in my HR director at work, who noticed the bruises and connected me with a women's rights organization called Vimochana. Oh, the women there, they listened to my story without judgment. They cried with me, stood by me, and gave me the courage to take legal steps against Gandu. And with their support, I went to the police station, accompanied by 2 women from Vimochana. Confronting him wasn't easy. With these 2 women and 1 male police officer and a woman police officer was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but it was also the most liberating. It took me 7 years, but he was even abusive in front of the cops. But when the male officer, 6 foot tall, grabbed him by the collar and warned him that one more time you touch this girl, you would land up in jail. And he backed off. His family packed up and left Bangalore within days and has never returned. But if you're wondering why I didn't confide in my parents about all of this, the answer is simple. I couldn't. My dad would have been shattered. I was his doll, the daughter he'd raised like a princess, despite our limited means. Knowing that I was being beaten black and blue by someone I chose to be with would have broken him. And my mother, she would have immediately told me to pack up and come back home. But that was never an option for me. I didn't leave everything behind, fight tooth and nail to make it to Bangalore, just to retreat and prove every naysayer right, that sending a girl to a big city would spoil her. But what frustrated me most was the sheer injustice of it. Why would I, the victim, have to give up my dreams, my career and my life? Why wasn't he the one who had to leave? Why is it always the woman who is expected to adjust, endure, or escape while the man walks away scot-free? Isn't that how it often is? Not just in India, but across the world. And to be clear, I'm not saying all men are like this, but in too many cases they are. And the burden always seems to fall on who? Us, women. But looking back, now I'm 36 years old, I realized how young and naive I was. I thought love was about sacrifice, about enduring pain for the sake of someone else's happiness, but that's not love, let me tell you, that's bloody manipulation. And no amount of tattoos, ripped jeans, or smooth words can make up for someone treating you like you are less than human. And I want every girl who hears this to know, you deserve respect, you deserve kindness, and you deserve love that lifts you up, not drags you down. And if someone lays a hand on you, please walk away the very first time. Don't wait 7 years like I did. Don't let fear or manipulation keep you in a relationship that destroys you. And let me also say this, I am sparing so many details about what truly went down in that relationship. What I have shared with you is just the surface, the tip of the iceberg. The version I can bring myself to speak about without honestly completely breaking down. Because if I were to tell you everything, every moment of humiliation, every bruise, every time I felt like I was losing a part of myself, I don't think the world is ready to hear it. And frankly, I don't trust our society to treat me with empathy if I laid it all bare. That's why I want to focus on one central issue here, domestic violence. And this isn't about religion or any other label you might want to attach this to this story, and I'm not going to let you do this to my story. Let's not make this about that, because let me tell you, and in my next relationship, which I will talk a lot more in the next episode with a Christian guy, and even in the one after that with a Hindu guy, the same cycle of violence repeated itself. The problem is much deeper than religion, guys. It's about control, it's about power and a lack of respect for women. And I hope that by sharing what I can help at least one woman see the signs and choose to break the cycle before it's too late. But like I said, the breaking point came when my HR director at Dell noticed the bruises on my body and the fact that he connected me with Vimochna, a women's rights organization. I will truly never forget those 3 women who sat at that large wooden table with me and heard my story and wept with me. They truly gave me the courage to stand up for myself. And guess what? 36 years later, as for winning Mrs. India Galaxy 2024, I am collaborating with the same women's rights organization, Vimochna, to stand up for domestic violence and raise awareness and help more and more women. And I just hope that I will be able to do so and change how things are done in this world before I go away from it. Right, so it was the end of a harrowing chapter in my life. But looking back again, I often wonder, why did it take me so long to leave, Rinima? Why did you? But I have realized that understanding self-worth and breaking cycles of abuse, unfortunately, takes time. Growing up, I was taught that love sometimes hurts. My parents disciplined us physically. So I thought his violence was just another form of love, but it wasn't, because he wasn't my parent. And by the way, I share this story not for sympathy, trust me, that I don't need it, but to let other women know that abuse, physical or emotional, is never okay. No one has the right to hurt you. And I'm going to keep reiterating that. And if you're in a situation like I was, know that there is help out there. Reach out. Women's rights organizations, cops, stand up for yourself and never let fear keep you silent. Moving on. By the time I ended this relationship 7 years later, I was 23. It took years to rebuild my confidence and to learn that healthy relationships, what healthy relationships look like. But in the next episode, I will share what happened as I stepped into a new phase of life, more career milestones, new relationships, and the continued journey of finding myself. But for now, I hope that my story serves as a reminder that no matter how dark things seem, there's always a way out. Thank you so very much, you guys, for listening. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need it. Let's please, please, please continue to create a community of honesty, resilience, and empowerment. I will see you in episode 6 of Shh next month. Take care of yourselves, and you ladies, take care of yourselves even more. I love you so much. Bye.